Today, we are going to pick back up with that book woman and continue to talk a little bit more about this text. As I mentioned before, it is one of my favorites from this first module, and I hope you're enjoying it as well. Okay, so today you are going to work on completing a story map for this story. And we've done this together with Tomas and the Library Lady, and we've done this with Waiting for the Biblio Burro. And we did not make a story map for My Librarian is a Camel because that was a nonfiction text. So it didn't have character setting, problem resolution the way that these stories do. So the first two story maps we have done a lot more together, where for this one, we are still going to work on it together through this learning video, but I'm going to be counting on you to, work a little bit more on your own than with the first two stories. Since we've had a chance to practice and you have been doing such an awesome job with it, I know that you'll do a great job working on this a little bit more on your own for this story map. Okay, so our questions, we always want to take a look at our questions to help focus for the lesson and focus what we're doing. We are still working on that big whole piece of pizza or whole pizza question of how do books change life for people around the world. We're still answering that. And we're still working on how a pack horse librarian changed life for Cal. We're slowly but surely getting to that answer. But today we want to focus specifically on what is happening in that book woman. And we'll do that through completing a story map. So if you could please, if you don't have your blue Wit and Wisdom workbook with you, if you could please pause the video and go ahead and grab it and come on back. Okay, so you have your workbook. And now, if you could please open it up to page handout 18A story map. Okay, so handout 18A story map. And the directions say, write and illustrate to complete the story map for that book woman. So what we're going to do is take a look at some specific pages today together from the text. And then you can either pause the video while you're watching it and fill in the sections of the story map as we go. Or if you want to watch this video straight through and then go back and complete the story map after, that is also fine. You have a copy of the book with you, that book woman. It was in the second supply box. So feel free to go back and look through that as well for pictures or to help with spellings of names if you need help with that. We're going to talk about them, but like I said, this time I'm going to, count on you to do a little bit more on your own since we've had a chance to practice with two other texts. So again, we're just practicing. If you don't get it completely correct, it's okay. That's why we are doing this, and we'll talk about it more in our next class. But we're going to go through. Like I said, you can pause and add the parts as we talk about them in this video, or you can go back at the end and complete it. I know that there is not a lot of space, and they do not have lines for your writing. So just try to do the best that you can to put in a combination of your words and pictures to tell about this story, okay? So again, I know the boxes and not having any lines makes it a little bit more challenging, but just try your best, okay? Okay, so let's take a look at the first part of the text and try to talk about and fill in our first part of the story map. Okay, so I have the story map on one side of the screen, and I'm hoping you can see it in this recording, but if not, we're going to take a look at the book. And the first part of the story map is when we see the masks, the little picture of the masks, that's the clue for us to pay attention to the characters. That's right. Who is in the story? So let's flip through here and think about if you have your story stones. Okay, so this sentence right here says, my name is Cal, and I am not the first one, nor the least one neither. But I am the oldest boy, and I can help Pap with the plowing, and I can fetch the sheep when they take a wander. So I know in this part I'm hearing about two different characters. Did you hear those two characters? And then over here it says my sister Lark. So, and I can bring the cow home too come evening time, which is right handy, seeing as how my sister Lark would keep her nose atwixt the pages of a book, daybreak to dusky dark. Okay, so I now have mentioned and I've heard of another character. So let's keep flipping through, and I can see some pictures here. And then when I get to this part, I notice another character and another character, right? If we look in the pictures. So they're talking about the stranger that comes. She's friendly, bringing, the books. She's wearing pants. And we see Cal's mom here as well. So as we flip through, I think, we've kind of come across all of the important characters in the story, and think about who is the main character. Just like in Tomas and Waiting for the Biblioboro, we paid attention to the main character. Okay, now let's talk about the next part of the story map. So at this point, if you would like to pause the video and fill in the characters based on what we just went over and talked about, and again, feel free to use your copy of the book, you can do that. Or if you want to keep watching and come back at the end and fill in all the sections, that's fine too. But now we're going to jump into when we see the picture of the house that tells us to focus on the setting. Yeah, very good. So let's go back, and we see right here, my folks and me, we live way up as up can get, so high we hardly sight a soul, cept hawks a-winging in the sky and critters hid among the trees. So if we remember, setting is where and also when a story takes place. So where and when a story takes place. Now we've talked pretty much about, we focused more on the where. So this, in this story, he's talking about, they're living way up high, as up as it can get. And, they live in a to our other two characters, well, the Anna character, and many of the children that were mentioned in the my librarian is a camel, right? In a remote town or village or a remote place. And you remember what remote means. Okay, so we can think about where Cal lives, where this story takes place. Okay, so we see that, he lives far up, maybe, on a mountain, far away from other people as we flip through the pages. The story also mentions the different seasons, right? As we're flipping through these pages here, we see that the bookwoman is coming through the changes of the seasons. And when a story takes place is also part of the setting. So you might want to include that on your story map to include that it goes through a year of seasons. And a big part of the story is during the winter months, and they talk about how snowy and how cold it is, and that she still comes even in this, the snowy winter weather. Okay, so those were the characters. We talked about the setting, and now let's think about the problem. The problem. So let's see, what do you think? So in the beginning of the story, when the bookwoman first comes, sorry, lights turned off there. When the bookwoman first comes, how does Cal feel about the bookwoman? Right? He's not real happy about it. He doesn't understand. He, in looking at his sister who enjoys reading and, she plays teacher and plays school, he says, I'm no scholar boy. I just look at it and it looks like chicken scratch to me. That means that, it's like he can't make sense of the words on the page. He doesn't know how to read. He's staring at chicken scratch. He doesn't know what they say. So to him, it doesn't look like anything meaningful. So he's not real happy about that, right? If I move, we look at his face here. He's looking at his sister Lark, not very happy. And when we see the bookwoman come, he gets pretty upset because he thinks that they're going to trade the berries that he worked hard to pick for books, which to him makes no sense and is not worth it because he can't do what? Right, he can't read. So that is a big part of the problem, is that Cal doesn't want to learn how to read. He doesn't know how to read. And he just doesn't understand why this woman, the bookwoman, would come and bring books, to their remote home where they live, that's far away, hard to get to. He doesn't understand why she would do that because he doesn't know how to read and he doesn't want to learn how to read. So um, that's all part of the problem. Now remember, whenever we have a problem, we we always want to look for the steps that the character goes through to help solve the problem. Now, it doesn't have a space on your story map to write the steps, but when you're trying to figure out what the resolution is, you kind of have to think about the steps to help make the resolution make sense and to help understand how the character gets to the resolution. So he's still right. He's upset. He's mad. He doesn't know why they, why Lark would want the books, why they would trade the berries that he worked so hard on. Okay, but now he hears that she's going to give the books, the bookwoman's going to just let them borrow the books for free and then come back and replace them. Okay, so he's just looking and wondering. And now, throughout this part of the story, the bookwoman keeps coming back and comes through really bad weather, really cold weather. And this one part in particular really stuck out to me. Well, this part, but he says, but sakes alive, we hear tap, tap, tap upon the window glass, and there she be, wrapped tip to toe. She makes her trade right through the crack to keep us folks from catching cold. So she doesn't even want them to open the door. She sticks the books through a crack so that the people inside, Cal and his family, don't get cold while she's out here on a horse in the middle of, a terrible storm, weather, snow, cold, blizzard, and she's more concerned about the family inside getting cold. So Cal is starting to think to himself, wow, like this must really be something that she is willing to go to these extremes to ride her horse, not stay, be out in the cold weather, and will come any season to bring us books. There must be something to this, right? And it's starting to make him wonder, like, wow, there must be something to this reading. He's just, watching, looking, and then he finally says, and all at once I yearn to know what makes that bookwoman risk catching cold or worse. And then he asks Lark to teach him to read. Right, so now we see we're getting to the resolution. Okay, so he asks, like I said, Lark to help him read. He learns how to read. And then things change for him, right? Things change. So he mentions, and this one particular part, he says that, that even though most days were tight as toes, pinched into boughten shoes, I do not mind. So what he's saying is that in this cold winter weather, they are stuck in the house all together and they're not able to really do anything. But he's saying that he doesn't mind this time. It's not bothering him this time. And he's saying, a puzzlement, I know, but true. It's not bothering me to be stuck inside in the winter like it normally does in other years. And why? What has changed for him? Yes, he's learned how to read. So if we go back to the original problem, Cal doesn't want to learn how to read and doesn't understand why the bookwoman would come and why the books are so important. To now, he has learned how to read and he understands, what's so great about reading. And then the story ends with him thanking the bookwoman by reading a story to her, by reading to her. And that is our story map. So, like I said, if you want to pause and go back during parts of this story to write and draw to show what is happening in the story, if you want to fill it in all at the end, that's great. But remember, just think about, what have we learned about characters? What do we know about setting? What is the main problem in this book? And how is it resolved? You can kind of always check yourself by asking, do the problem and the resolution line up? Right? If they're not kind of matched up, if the resolution doesn't solve the problem, then maybe we need to, you need to go back and look in the text to see if you're not quite on the right track. Okay? So I can't wait to see your problem resolution, characters, and setting when you're finished with your story map. And again, just fitting in the lines as best you can. When you're finished, snap a quick picture and send it. And I can't wait to see your story maps. All right. Thanks so much.